at this point. It's the most
and
sensational.
It turns out that Clinton paid for that. It turns out that Hillary Clinton paid for that.
Oh, she took over the investigation. It's Oppo research.
No. It wasn't Oppo research. It had nothing to do with the Republicans. The Republicans hired that company to do research, Oppo research. Then when he got the nomination, they dropped it. They said to hell with it. Then they went over to Hillary Clinton and said, would you like to hire our company?
Okay.
And she said yes. And then they went to Russian officials, and the Russian officials gave them a dossier saying that Trump hired Russian prostitutes to pee.
And
then that dossier was given to the FBI, who used it as a justification to wiretap Trump's campaign.
the dossier contained like 38 other...
I know, and some of them may be of substance, but the point is, Clinton used the FBI to wiretap her political opponent. And
Well,
she was
she
aided in
didn't.
doing this.
She didn't wiretap her opponent. She gave the evidence, this Oppo research, according to you, to the FBI, which I guess is how it worked.
So Clinton was allowed, under the Obama administration, to wiretap her opponent in a political campaign.
Well, she wasn't wiretapping him. The FBI was wiretapping him.
Because of a dossier she paid for with stuff that her people made up in Russia.
Her people made up in Russia.
Yes, she paid those people $12 million.
To make up shit? You're saying,
yes,
here's 12 million? No, that seems like
she
bullshit to
paid
me.
them $12 million, and they came up with a story about Trump paying Russian prostitutes to pee.
You keep bringing up the P tape, but there were 36 other allegations. The P tape is the most crazy.
If you are Clinton, you can pay the Russians to come up with allegations that they will then give the FBI so that they will wiretap your political opponent. Is that how you do things in America?
I don't know, because there's all these different...
If you're a Republican, do you get to give dossiers to the FBI and say, here, investigate my opponent? Do you do that in America during a political campaign?
I don't know, because all sorts of stuff got done during this campaign that was...
Not all sorts of stuff.
Yeah.
Only one side paid $12 million to Russian sources, Russian governmental officials, in order to get a dossier together, give to the FBI to investigate, to wiretap their opponents.
You can't have your points be more substantial by raising your voice.
Well, you can't duck out of them.
I can't.
That's what happened.
One side paid a guy who used to work for MI5, the British intelligence agency.
The Democrats did that.
Okay. Yeah. And he came back with this stuff.
By going to Russian officials. The Democrats paid the Russians to make up stories about Trump.
They didn't directly pay the Russians. Did they know the money was going to the Russians?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes, they did.
I don't...
Because the guy from MI5 was an expert in Kremlin affairs. That was his position. That was where he worked. He was a British spy that worked in the Russian department.
Right. All I can tell you is that what the liberal media... Hold on.
Just fine.
Let me just go with the liberal media's take, or the media's take, since it's the liberal media is the media. What you call the liberal media are all these news gathering
I'm not
organizations.
interested. Get to the point.
All right. Well, according to what I hear, without reading about it in depth, and really I don't know anything in depth, is that none of this, what happened with this dossier and the other stuff, is particularly untoward in terms of Oppo research.
Rick, nobody has ever paid the Russians to come up with stories and then taken those stories and gone to the FBI during an election to investigate their opponent. Nobody ever paid the Russians to come up with stories about their opponent. Nobody took those stories to a governmental agency, an investigative body, to investigate their opponent during an election. It breaks every conceivable electoral law. And that's not the end of it.
According to your sources.
Not according to my sources. We don't do that in this country. This is not a banana republic.
We do all sorts of Oppo research.
It's not Oppo research when you're paying the Russians.
We paid an MI6 guy. We paid a Brit. We didn't pay the frickin' Russian.
The Brit was an expert in Russian affairs. He worked in Russia.
That's the guy you'd want if there's shit going on between Trump people and Russia.
Like watching people pee.
Well, no, you love the pee thing because it's the craziest part of the dossier. But the dossier has three.
You don't get the FBI to investigate your opponent based on a lie that you paid millions of dollars for.
The pee tape may or may not be a thing, but there's other stuff that has been substantiated. We can go upstairs if you want again, and we can look at the shit out of the dossier.
Wait, I've got another issue. This week, for 6 months, I've been telling you that the IRS was used by the Obama administration in the key swing states of Florida and Ohio to crush Republican organizations so that he could win the 2012 election. This week, the court came down with a decision proving that.
Which court?
The court in Washington.
What court?
I don't know the name of the court. I know the name of the lawyer, Jay Sekulow.
Okay, but
Jay Sekulow won a judgment that...
On behalf of whom?
On behalf of the U.S. versus the IRS. On behalf of a I don't know, Jay Sekulow was the lawyer. We sued the IRS.
We being what, the Tea Party?
Those organizations that were being crushed by the IRS. No, they were being crushed by the IRS.
Crushed how? They didn't.
They were being denied their status, so they couldn't organize. You can't organize without this status.
What, this tax exempt status?
Yes, without the tax exempt status, you can't do anything.
How long were they under non?
Forever. They didn't ever get. They never got.
All right. So this court, how many of these organizations?
They sued.
They, when you say they, who?
I don't know. There
like
were
half
dozens
a dozen.
of them.
Okay, like.
And yes, there were dozens of them, and they won this week.
Well, then let's go upstairs and look at that shit too.
Okay, not only did they win, but they proved that the Obama administration did this.
Let's go upstairs and look at it.
Because you don't believe me. But beyond that, wait a minute.
It's the peanuts and shit theory.
Wait. They won this judgment, number one. Number two, they showed that the IRS was at fault. Number three, the IRS had to fire all their top people. Number four, the IRS has to create reforms and present a report to the court saying how they're going to change things in the future. That's how badly you lost. And you wouldn't believe me. You kept saying this is conspiracy stuff. No, the Obama administration, this week, it was proven that the Obama administration used the IRS to harass their political opponents, which is fascism. You can't do that in the United States. It breaks every law.
Let's go.
That's fine. Let's go upstairs.
We're going upstairs again.
Okay, that's the first thing. Turn off the camera. The second thing is, Darlene, could you please not move around and eat and make noise while I'm talking?
What?
Okay, dear, you've got those headphones in your ears. You don't realize you're making a lot of noise back there when I'm talking. Okay,
I didn't know
so
that.
it kind of got me upset.
Okay, sorry.
Okay.